So we're going to go on to the next speaker, and that would be John Moselage. And John is a local activist. He's dedicated his life to restoring the Constitution, and he's really interested in the Jefferson Fund and the Sacred Honor Society to support and honor those who are taking a stand and speaking the truth during this chaos. John, you're up.
So I would like to start with thanking Sheriff Mack for coming all the way out here to Washington State. And all the other amazing speakers that you're going to hear today. We only had 12 days to put this event together, but we felt the time was short and it was urgent. And so we have an opportunity, but I believe the window is closing fast. I'm grateful to the dedicated team that worked really tirelessly to put this event together for you guys today. I want to talk to you today about the idea of a constitutional county. My friend Sharam, Pastor Hadian, might call this a sanctuary county for reasons he'll go into later. But when our communities come under attack, it is our natural right to assemble ourselves and defend those communities. Because of the unique role of the county sheriff, the county is the natural level to come together and do just that. I remember learning about Sheriff Mack and his Supreme Court case back in the 2009 timeframe when I awoke daily to the next attack on our constitutional republic. I remember taking Glenn Beck's advice. I got on my knees every night and prayed for the answer. I remember asking for more time, that we, the people, might be able to mount some kind of defense against this continuous onslaught. I believe that we got that reprieve with Donald Trump, and I thank God is saying to us, what will you do with this time? Because, folks, can you think of another person in America that could actually take this kind of abuse? And there was a bit of a low point back in that time frame when I happened to be listening to a piano rendition of God Bless America that transitioned into My Country 'Tis of Thee. And we all know the next line to that, Sweet Land of Liberty. And I remember it hitting me like a freight train. I can feel it now. I guess they say it's true what they say. You really don't know what you have until you've lost it. And for me, I never knew what that phrase actually meant until at that point, and I started to weep. I never had. I'm sorry, guys. When I learned that the county sheriff is not answerable to the President of the United States or the governor of any state or the county executive, but only answerable to we the people that elected him, that was a ray of hope to me. Another check and balance in our system, but one with real teeth, and one close enough to the people for us to have some influence. I think we learned pretty early on in the Tea Party that our chance of influencing Washington, D.C. was near zero. And that we had the most influence at the county and even state level. I committed all of my free time and money to help get my state rep, Robert J. Sutherland, elected, and he's here today. And after 3 campaigns, we finally succeeded. Rep. Sutherland and I share the goal of a constitutional county, which I will try to define in a minute. I do not have all the answers, obviously, so the goal of today's gathering is with the sheriffs and the pastors, medical professionals, and even troublemakers like me, is just to have an open dialogue to ask what can be done on the county level to circle the wagons and protect our way of life from these unlawful edicts that are prescribed for the specific purpose to destroy private business and make us all wards of the state. I remember at the outset of this COVID-19 Trojan horse pandemic, when we didn't know what we were facing. So when the governor asked us all to stay home, most people voluntarily did so, not wanting to put other people at risk, thinking this may be something like Ebola with a high fatality rate. Now we find out this is not any more deadly than the common flu. Just 15 days to flatten the curve, we were told by the governor. A month and a half later, Rep. Sutherland asked the governor's office and said, okay, the curve has been flattened. Now what's the plan for opening the state back up? And they said to him, well, we should probably start that conversation. And Rep. Sutherland said, wrong. You guys should have had that conversation a month ago. And so from that point forward, I knew that something else was afoot. There was some other agenda. And recently, I've been told that the latest edict is that the governor is going to require masks to be worn everywhere, all the time, even outside. And conveniently, it expires after Election Day on November 5th. And so, you know, if this thing had been about saving lives, then the governor of New York, New Jersey, and other governors would not have sent COVID patients to nursing homes and signed an executive order forbidding nursing homes to refuse COVID-19 patients. More than 5,000 seniors were murdered in New York alone. Where is the investigation for that? Next, we saw Antifa and Black Lives Matter burning down cities, including black-owned businesses. About 2 months ago, I got a call from Rep. Sutherland telling me that we had a credible threat that Antifa was headed for the town of Snohomish to burn it to the ground. I said, to hell with that. And he said, well, grab your kit and let's get down there. So I must tell you that it was quite heartwarming for me when we arrived, not knowing what we were walking into, to see 800 patriots lining the streets up one side and down the other, armed to the teeth. It was a bit surreal. I've never done anything like that before, and it kind of felt like I was in a movie. I mean, you remember the old Westerns. The banditos were coming to town, and the town showed up. So there were several pairs of Antifa scouts that we saw that tried to blend in a little unsuccessfully. They were walking a little too fast down the street with their heads on a swivel. And they texted their friends and decided better of it and left town. So at the end of the night, nobody was shot. The town was intact. Despite all the hand-wringing, none of the fears of the gun-controlled crowd materialized. I guess people really can be trusted to be responsible with guns. I like to tell people there's 100 million gun owners in America, and if we were the problem, you'd know about it. But that didn't stop the leftists from demonizing our actions, bringing people that don't even live in Snohomish or even Washington to complain to the city council that we were racist. I mean, you'd think they could come up with something else. That it was a bunch of vigilantes. I forget all the other charges, but from where I was, I didn't see it. What I saw was good people. I remember many of the businesses that thanked us for being there. And then we got home about 3 a.m. and I had to go to work the next morning, but Rep. Sutherland stays up even later. He posted a picture that we took to his Facebook page with the caption, "Defending our little town of Snohomish tonight." The next day I got a call that the post was going mega viral. Indeed, you could watch the number of shares going up 5 and 10 at a time. I've never seen anything like that. But when Facebook finally caught on and throttled it, he had over 198,000 shares. So why did it go mega viral? Well, I think the following clip might help explain it if it comes up here. So you guys just proved the next point in my speech here, that it was reported that moviegoers across the nation stood and cheered at that scene. Well, it struck a nerve. I think we were not too many years removed at that time from the Iran hostage crisis, and people had had enough. And I think in both cases, both here in Snohomish and when they clapped during that scene, the people said, that's how you solve that problem. Now, unlike the movie, nobody got shot in Snohomish that night. And I'm sure Indy would be called a racist today by the cancel culture. I did think the red and black colors on the bad guy were apropos. The next 4 nights we showed up and stood guard while the BLM protesters peacefully marched with signs up one side of the street and down the other, walking past us. We quickly determined that there were legitimate protesters that were mostly high schoolers with their parents, but joined by 1 or 2 belligerent types looking for trouble that didn't seem to be from around here. On the 4th night, when the belligerent types didn't show up, they just quietly marched up and down the streets. And at one point, we stopped and talked to them, and we told them, we're not just here to defend the town. We're here to defend your First Amendment right to do what you're doing. And we agreed that the George Floyd killing, as it appears, was a terrible thing. So why am I telling you this today? Because the people are fed up with the lawlessness and want a way that they can be involved to fix this problem. They're tired of just watching this happen. I have a few suggestions for those of you out there that feel this way. I feel coordination with local law enforcement. So we showed up in a pinch, unwilling to see what had been allowed to happen in other cities happen in Snohomish. But it would have been better if those who showed up to actually defend the town could be part of a backup force under the authority of the sheriff, as a known quantity, vetted and trained to the sheriff's satisfaction as a voluntary group of people who could provide a quick reaction force to protect communities if called upon. We used to have volunteer fire departments when I was growing up, and so this wouldn't be much different. This group would be self-funded such that it would not drain the current resources away from the sheriff's department. This could ease the concerns expressed at the Snohomish City Council as well. Duty-bound firearms training will provide to any Washington State Sheriff's Department who wants to bring on such a group 4-day courses in defensive handgun and practical rifle training out at Front Sight Firearms Institute near Las Vegas. Sheriffs could call upon the group to simply report any malicious activity to his department, as Sheriff Fortney asked us to do, and we agreed, or in the case of an insurrection or attack, as fully capable backup force. Sheriff Songer in Klickitat County already has a posse, and Sheriff Mark Lamb, who you will hear from later, is starting his first inaugural, what he calls Citizens Posse, today of all days. So he couldn't be here, but we did a pre-recorded video for you to listen to. This could be done at a church such as this one, where Pastor DJ at the house church is willing to stand, and could form assemblies with committees of safety and committees of correspondence, like was done at the beginning of the country. Sharam Hadian will be talking a little bit about that later briefly. And just for historical understanding, these committees of correspondence were where we got the Declaration of Independence, and is a good way to redress your government if you have a list of grievances. Another way that people can get involved is to learn about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence so that you understand your rights, where they came from, and will be the better prepared to see when they are violated, and will be able to respond. To that end, Resolve Radio is sponsoring a free crash course on the Constitution taught by my friend, known as America's Constitutional Coach, Rick Green. And if you're interested in that, you can go to resolveradio.com, and I'll be setting that up after this summit so we can do another 6-night class. And it's 12 hours of class held over 6 nights, so 2 hours a night, and then we want to bring on speakers in between those 2 hours for some of the speakers that you'll hear today. We also started something called the Jefferson Fund. My co-host on Resolve Radio podcast, Sam Wilson, said to me one day a few months ago that we should start and write an open letter to law enforcement. after seeing many sheriffs and peace officers standing up for our rights and a few who were violating people's rights. That document turned into what we call the Compact for Liberty. The idea that if the people link arms with constitutional law enforcement and we have each other's back, then we really don't have a problem anymore. With tyrants demanding that we follow their unlawful edicts and to come together to the defense of those sheriffs and peace officers who are standing for our rights and actually taking abuse for it by starting a GoFundMe campaign to cover their legal expenses. As we were writing the open letter to law enforcement, my dad sent me a video of Port of Seattle police officer Greg Anderson, who many of you may have already seen, who was admonishing his fellow cops that they just didn't have the authority to step on people's inalienable rights just because someone told them to in order to keep their job. A few weeks later, he was fired, so we started a GoFundMe for him and put on a page we called the Jefferson Fund, where the people can go to get involved. We raised $51,000 for his legal defenses, and then a little while later, our own Sheriff Fortney, who is supposed to be here today. I hope he can make it. He may have got called, but he came under attack for announcing that he would not enforce the governor's unlawful edicts, and the county prosecutor, who normally represents the sheriff in court when the recall goes before the judge to look at the merits of the claims, refused to do so. So we started a GoFundMe for Sheriff Fortney and raised a little over $70,000 for his legal counsel. And the people are hungry for ways to show their support and appreciation for the men and women of law enforcement who are doing the right thing even when it is hard. Here's a video I put together that I think you'll enjoy. But before I start, I have to tell you the beginning of this video, where the mayor of Los Angeles is offering to pay people to turn in their neighbors, just kind of creeps me out. When I heard this the first time, I said, okay, that's it. These people get no more benefit of the doubt. Because if you listen to people like Jordan B. Peterson, who talks about the Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, you know that 1 out of 3 of your neighbors and family in the old Soviet Union were paid informants to the government, with quotas. So if you didn't turn in enough people that month, maybe you end up in the Gulag. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a country like that. And finally, we started something called the Sacred Honor Society to recognize not just law enforcement, but any of our fellow Americans who have the courage to take a stand and speak the truth into chaos and take the hits for it. Sheriff Songer, Greg Anderson, Chief Culp, who could not be here today but support our cause, have received the Certificate of Merit from the Sacred Honor Society. They have also signed the Compact for Liberty, which we have here today, and I have 5 more certificates to award today to people here. As I read your name, would you please come to the stage and receive your award? The first one goes to Sheriff Mack for his tireless efforts over several decades. For several decades, he has brought the awareness of the power the county sheriff wields and the responsibility they have as county sheriff. That is truly the core of why we are here today. The second one goes to Sheriff Adam Fortney for his willingness to announce that he would not enforce unconstitutional edicts by the governor. The press criticized him, saying that he should just enforce the laws, not interpret them. However, if he's the one swearing the oath, then he's the only individual on planet Earth that can make that decision, whether something is constitutional or not, and whether to uphold that and to be able to uphold and defend the Constitution. The next one goes, so I don't know if Sheriff Fortney made it today. Okay, we'll give that to him later. The next one goes to a true patriot that I have had the pleasure of knowing for more than 5 years now. His willingness to fight for the people in Olympia, often saying things that need to be said, regardless of the consequences. Someone I know can be trusted to make the right decision, even when nobody is looking. I am shamelessly stealing the last one that I would say about him from my friend Rick Green, because I love it so much. Enough backbone to cause a freight train to take a dirt road. I think that describes your state rep in the 39th Legislative District, and I believe he's here today. Robert, would you be able to come down? So we have two more. The next one goes to Bob the Barber Martin for his fearless... for his fearlessness in keeping his business open in spite of the unlawful threats and bullying tactics, the state of Washington, governor, L&I, and health department. And the last one goes to Rick Martin, who drove all the way here from Texas to help Bob the Barber and has helped many other people during this time, offering his services pro bono. And I sure appreciate his help on this. So we're looking for counties with a sheriff and ideally a prosecutor as a model today. We're focused on the sheriffs, identifying liberty passionate individuals and churches that want to join this fight. We played that video at the beginning to make sure that everyone understood the plan for us if we do nothing. That is the plan being implemented as I stand here and speak right now. And it doesn't involve freedom. War has been declared on the Western world, its values in capitalism and in general, and the United States in particular. The fastest way to lose a war is to not know that one's been declared on you. This is just a conversation today, a meeting of the minds. If we accept what we watched earlier, that there is a global reset in the works, and we can see pretty clearly that the governor of this state is on board with that plan, then we know that the 2 weeks to flatten the curve was a lie from the beginning, and the state is corrupt at this point. It falls to the sheriffs to investigate crimes that have been committed and restore law and order in our state, and I believe that starts at the county level. So I believe the opportunity for this window is closing as the election nears. I don't know about you, but I don't think Antifa is going quietly into the night, or the global cabal if Trump is reelected. They're hoping you will continue to be quiet and obey until they get Trump out of office and can continue their world reset unopposed by any nation. God and the American patriot are the only things standing in their way. But there are 100 million gun owners in this country, so that is a big problem for them. So they took a different tact. They developed a virus and a vaccine. Create the problem, offer the solution. What we cannot do is continue the path that we are on right now, which is watching our constitutional republic dissolve in front of our eyes without a fight. We cannot sit on the sidelines and be spectators. Today it is the mask. Tomorrow it will be proof of vaccination. We don't need a majority of Americans. It cannot. We need a tireless few that will band together and work day and night until we prevail. It cannot be acceptable for us to agree to allow the government to inject into our bodies some unknown substance. What happened to my body, my choice? So drop the apathy and join us. Become part of the tireless minority. Stand and be counted in your nation's most critical hour. Find a church that is still open, where you will find like-minded people willing to join the fight. Form a group and to support your sheriff if he is constitutionally minded. If yours isn't, but the one in the neighboring county is, support that sheriff. Let's circle the wagons at the county level and hold the ground, even if the rest of the world goes insane. Sheriffs, don't discount the talent and skills of the people in your county. And remember, and I coined this, I haven't ever coined anything in my life, but I really like this one. So remember, distributed genius beats centralized tyranny every time. We have 3,100 counties, and we can find out what works and what doesn't. And the most important of all in the American experiment is that it was God-breathed. He is the author of liberty and will not allow what he started to be torn apart now. So he is raising up those who will stand. To the man, every person on our planning team, to the man or woman, to the last one, said that they saw God's involvement in this effort. And we are so grateful to be a part of it. And we can take this one last thing to heart as a comfort as we persevere through this the terrible trials in front of us, that the man who is found doing his duty will be protected. And in the words of John Quincy Adams, the duty is ours, the results are God's. There's a whole story to that maybe I can tell at a different time. But live your life every day as if your nation depended on it, because it does. Thank you. I meant to show you guys, this is the Compact for Liberty that we brought today, and if there are any sheriffs or peace officers here that would like to sign this, please come see us, including you, Sheriff Mack. So we have a fundraiser.
John's going to keep doing one more thing.
We have a silent auction out in the front. We want to raise money to help cover Sheriff Mack's expenses and other people that have come out here. The really high ticket item is a lifetime membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Institute for 2 people. Those go for $25,000 each on Front Sight. I sell them for $5,000. They are out there for bid. It starts at $500. We have a box set by Rick Green that I didn't bring today, but I will deliver to you. Most of you people are local. That he sells for $500. That will start at $100. And then various T-shirts, and this one, which I made this T-shirt a while back, just in case there's any doubt what our future would be if we do nothing. It's a picture of North Korea and South Korea. You've seen it, the satellite picture at night, and North Korea is just a dark black hole. I think that proves the capitalist system works.